Infused with the scent of potpourri, the films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com, and if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for tons of bonus audio content, including TV and book reviews, immediate reaction movie reviews, Patreon potpourri episodes, movie commentary tracks, and much, much more. On the note of Patreon, now that we're heading into awards season, I'm watching a bunch of for your consideration screeners for my affiliation with the Indiana Film Journalists Association. So in doing that, I am for the second or third year in a row, I am doing Patreon potpourri episodes where I just bunch together 4 movies that I watch and give a full-fledged review episode on Patreon for the $5 and $10 above members, or $5 and above members. So those are the awards season ones. The first one just dropped today, where I reviewed, on a weird theme, I reviewed Air, Creed 3, BS High, and Stephen Curry, Underrated. So check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm your host, Matt Hurd, and you can find me on social media, including Letterboxd at Obsessive Viewer. And today on the show, we're going to be reviewing the new Sofia Coppola movie, Priscilla, which tells the story of Priscilla Presley's turbulent marriage to Elvis Presley and is currently out in theaters. And joining me today to do that is my friend and fellow podcaster, Kim C., whose one-woman Stephen King podcast, The Year of Underrated Stephen King, takes an academic approach to analyzing the master storyteller's lesser-covered works. You can find her show wherever you get your podcast and follow her on Twitter/X, whatever it's called now, at UnderatedSKPod. Kim, welcome back to the show, and thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing this evening?
Hi, Matt. I'm so happy to see you and be here. I love all Matt Hurt podcast initiatives, and it's a real joy. I was feeling a little tired, and then the second I get to put on my headphones and turn on the mic, I've got some pep in my step.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm very excited for this episode, and of course to chat with you, because it's always a treat. And I'm very excited for this because I think we were talking before recording that, like, this movie was not on my radar at all. You had messaged me and mentioned, like, hey, this is coming out, watch it and please have me on. And I'm like, yeah, okay, of course, I'm never going to say no to that. So, very, very, excited to chat with you on this, because I know that, and we're going to get ahead a little bit, so, I'll give you a chance to talk about the podcast and everything, but, I know that you have a lot of thoughts about Priscilla Presley and Elvis Presley, and like me, I'm just like, yeah, I went into it, I was like, okay, I know nothing, and then I was like, oh, I know a lot now, okay, so it'll be an interesting conversation, so, yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so excited, Matt.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, I saw the film in the theater. I was so excited to go. And 15 seconds after the film ended and the credits were rolling, I'm texting Matt. Like, that's how much I wanted to talk about this film with him, because I'm a huge Elvis Presley fan.
Nice.
But I'm also a very big Priscilla fan, and that's why it's going to be amazing.
Nice. Well, it's going to be a blast to talk to you about this, but I want to kind of give you the floor to let our listeners know more about your podcast, The Year of Underrated Stephen King. If you guys don't know what she does over there, like, why not go listen to it? You should know by now, but it's one of my personal favorite podcasts to just listen to, and it's a blast. So yeah, tell us about the show.
Oh, why, thank you, dear sir. So my podcast was started during COVID, like I think a lot of podcasts were.
Yeah.
But I was basically a little cranky girl who wasn't getting exactly what I wanted out of the Stephen King content. I was hungry for deeper analysis and examining the books that I really liked that had great writing, but everybody was talking about the big hitters, Cujo, The Stand, and they're amazing novels, but I was like, why isn't anybody talking about these shadow picks or these 90s King? And so I just went for it and started making one-woman episodes where I take King to the classroom. And that's what we've been doing for 3 years. And it's allowed me to make a ton of friends and fall in love with King's writing and fall in love with the Dark Tower, more importantly.
Yes. Your Dark Tower coverage has been incredible, so I can't wait for you to continue on, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to rejoining Roland next year. I'm going to start Wind Through the Keyhole, which might be slightly controversial. Don't know. And then Wolves of the Kalawar follow. I really want to do both. But yeah, I'm a passionate fan of King's beautiful writing. I talk about him in my classroom. So my one-woman show celebrates his work. And I also interview constant readers to enhance my reader's journey. So I not trying to toot my own horn, but it's not boring. So
it's fantastic. And your constant reader interviews are also fantastic. Like it's really, really good. Yeah. So
thank you,
big
sir.
fan. Yeah. And you just recently you interviewed the host of Talking Scared podcast. And also you covered it in a very thorough episode that I thought was just fantastic. So yeah. So I highly recommend those episodes, guys.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. 2023 was a wild year in terms of King titles. I had no plans to read, 0 plans to read. And then they were thrown on my lap and I'm like, okay, this is happening. I'm doing episodes on these books. So it was a real river rapids, rough rapids of wildness this year, but I don't regret a moment. It's been wonderful. And yeah, I hope to kind of incorporate a little bit more mainstream King to balance it out going forward, because they're top contenders for a reason. They're amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And at this point, I'm sure you're kind of running out of underrated King. So
a little bit for sure.
So that'll be nice. Yeah. So, well, welcome to the show once again. And I was gonna throw out some movie news and everything, but I don't know that I really have any, except for kind of tied to our conversation about Stephen King, really. There was not news, but the scuttlebutt is that the long shelved, in limbo, Salem's Lot movie. Yeah, it is, according to rumor, it is going to, be basically unceremoniously dumped on Max, at some point. So I'm like, it's a shame. I hate that because it was in line to have a theatrical release, and then it got moved, and then it got just completely wiped off the schedule. And now it's just okay, we're going to throw it on streamers. And from everything that I heard, it's all just due to bottom line tax crap, and not necessarily a reflection of the quality. But I don't know. I'm just excited that we'll potentially be able to see it in the near future. So I don't know. How do you feel about the news of the new Salem's Lot movie?
Oh, I'm a little bummed, buddy. I was a little nervous when I found out it's approximately, I hope this has changed, but someone said it was only 90 minutes in length.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's right. I forgot about that.
That hurt.
Yeah.
when I found that out.
Yeah, I remember when the runtime was announced for the Dark Tower movie, and I was trying to justify it. And then I saw it, and the justifications ended right there. So,
and then everything sunk to the bottom of the ocean.
Yep. Ugh.
I am a little bit bummed, and I'm like you, silver lining, thrilled that we will get a contemporary adaptation readily available, and hopefully we can sift through and find some treasure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whenever it comes out, you have a standing invitation to come on Obsessive Viewer or Tower Junkies and review it with me, because we can either celebrate or weep together.
I love it. It's either going to be one or the other, commiserating or celebrating.
Yep.
So I too, I'm just shaking my head with you, buddy.
It's just, at this point, it's kind of, it's not funny, but it is kind of a little bit hilarious that, like, anytime, like, I'm like at the bookstore or whatever, or at Target, and I just see Salem's Lot, and it's the movie tie-in edition of that movie that isn't out, is not, like, it's that has been on the shelves at bookstores for like over a year, and it's just like, it's rough. So yeah, I
just don't really know how that happened. Like, vampires are amazing.
Salem's
Lot is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no idea. I honestly think, like I said, I really do think that it is due to just like it's a tax write-off to, well, I don't know if that necessarily is the case with Salem's Lot, but like other movies, like it's been very like widely criticized that, like, in particular, Warner Brothers has been like the whole Batgirl thing was like, they finished the movie, it had post-production that it was going through, but they just shelved it. It'll never see the light of day. And they just also canceled the like Wile E. Coyote versus Anvil, like courtroom, like comedy thing. And it's just like, it's so depressing that, like, we live in a time where people can put in work into a product, into a creative endeavor, and then the risk of that just never seeing the light of day is very real. Like, it's so egregious and terrible, specifically because we are in an era where it has never been this easier for people to find and consume media, like, ever. And, like, for big, mega, huge corporations like that to be playing with, you know, people's art in a way that is going to maybe, presumably save them, you know, X number of dollars at the end of the day, rather than just put the product that's already been made out into the world, is asinine. Yeah.
Real bad.
Yep. But also, I wanted to ask you this. I don't know if you've seen this, but did you watch Pet Sematary Bloodlines?
I did not. Okay. This is perfect, because I was actually going to ask you about it.
Okay, nice.
Because I read the plot, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, I completely put it on the back burner, because I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. This is not a thing. This sounds like fan fiction, and I didn't know what to think about that. So I'm guessing no good.
It's bad. It's bad. It's mostly the kind of overwhelming thought that I had was that I don't know, like, there is no one that wanted this movie. Like, I don't know, like, the movie doesn't justify a reason for it existing. But more importantly, it's basically just like one of the kind of anecdotes I like, one of the things that made me laugh through the tears of having to watch the movie was that, like, oh yeah, you remember how important Pet Sematary is as a story about grief and everything. Like, now you can see the backstory of Judd Crandall, and then, like, checking notes, avoiding the draft, like that. Like, that's basically, like, there's nothing that's there's nothing like important going on in that movie, and there's no reason for it to exist, and like it's all it's very muddled. Like David Duchovny is featured prominently in the trailer, but like he's barely in it, and it's a case where he's presented as being like maybe an antagonistic character or someone that has any kind of depth. And then the movie just moves on to something else entirely and then tries to fit him in like later, and it doesn't work. It's very, very weird. It's it sucks. It really was not good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know though, so I won't waste precious time.
Yeah. It's I know that the 2019 Pet Sematary made money. Like, I know that was I don't think critically like it did very well. I know that I didn't like it all that well, but I just don't understand how, like, even with the pandemic and everything delaying things, I don't understand how, like, now we're almost 5 years later, it's like, oh, let's have this like continuation or this prequel to expand the Pet Sematary like world and like presumably try to make a franchise out of it, which I guess they did the same with the original, making sequels and everything, but it's just like have something to tell, and they don't. So yeah.
I have a real problem with this with folks who adapt King's work, and there's such a prolific amount of stories that anybody could do a dollar baby, and it's like, why would you interpolate and fictionalize a completed work? Like, why?
Yeah.
You know?
It's so weird. Like, I'm all for putting your own unique spin on something, especially when taking it from one medium to the other. But like, if you have like only do that if you have a passion or any kind of vision for it. Like, don't just do it as a cash grab. It's weird, and it just doesn't come through at all. It's and also kind of on that same note, a show that did work well enough was Chapelwaite, which was on now it's called MGM Plus, I think. But
was it Epix?
Epix. It was on Epix, and then they changed that over. But like that had a whole season based on Jerusalem's Lot, the short story prequel to Salem's Lot, and the season was like 10 episodes. I reviewed all of it on Patreon, so check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But but also like that was interesting, because it was like that kind of like taking the text, taking the short story, and like bringing in some other like familiar Salem's Lot aspects to it. So like the original short story doesn't have vampires, I don't think, but this becomes like a period set vampire story for Chapelwaite, and like it was compelling. It was good. It had Adrian Brody, which was a kind of a big get, and then also I can't remember her name, Emily Hampshire, I'm not sure, but like she was good in it. And then when it completed, they renewed it for a season 2, and then a year and a half later they're like, oh, by the way, we're not going to do a season 2. Like, that's canceled now. So
boo.
Yeah, so it's a shame, but the first season,
I definitely want to check it out. I want to check out Chapelwaite. I remember seeing previews and I was like, oh my god, this looks gory.
Yeah. It's like, in terms of the setting, like that kind of the period of it is really interesting. Like, there's some really cool like imagery to it. I think you would really like it. I think yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that gives me hope. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I probably was a little too narrow-minded with saying I don't like it when people just don't follow the King rulebook. No, not necessarily, but I think...
But they just need to have something to say. Yeah.
Correct. You said it perfectly. I think you can be inspired by a King tale that already exists and really put a beautiful spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that. I do.
Yeah.
I just, sadly, we don't have a lot of evidence of that working.
I know. And like the evidence that we do have either gets canceled after renewed for season 2 or it has 2 seasons on Hulu like Castle Rock and then it's done.
Yeah. Oh
so,
my God. Castle Rock.
Oh my God. Yes.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. That show, that could have gone on for years. I
really liked it.
Yeah,
I was into it.
Me too. And especially after, like, just recently I read The Dark Half and I was like, this could have been like season 3 of Castle Rock. Like, it could have been, yeah. So
sad.
Yep. Yep. But that's a kind of improvised Stephen King centric news segment for the episode. So there
Beautiful.
we go. Yeah.
Thank you for the information.
Of course, of course. So are you ready, Kim, to talk Priscilla?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Let's do it. I was trying to think of like a cool Elvis song lyric too, but I failed.
Are we ready to go into the dangerous minds of Sofia Coppola and Priscilla Presley?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the best I got. So, okay. Yep. Well, we're going to be reviewing Priscilla, which is, like I said, currently in theaters. I think it's like a kind of limited release. It's playing, it's interesting. This is not interesting for anyone, but a year and a half, 2 years, almost 2 years ago, I moved from the west side of Indianapolis to the north side. And in order to see Priscilla, I had to go to one of the theaters on the west side that I used to frequent a lot, and I hadn't been there in like over a year, and it was nice. I was like, oh, there's a new chicken place here. That's neat. So it was cool. But anyway, we're going to be reviewing Priscilla. Again, it's in theaters. The premise, but by the way, we're going to be doing a non-spoiler review, and then we'll transition into a spoiler review. At that point, I will play a clip from the trailer. And you can check show notes if you want to skip ahead to that or away from it, what have you. Those show notes are available on whatever app you're using, or you can find them at obsessiveviewer.com/OV402. And to bring us into the review, the premise, courtesy of IMDb, is when teenage Priscilla, I can't remember how to pronounce her name, Beaulieu?
Close. I think it's Beaulieu.
Beaulieu. Okay. When teenage Priscilla Beaulieu meets Elvis Presley, the man who is already a meteoric rock and roll superstar becomes someone entirely unexpected in private moments, a thrilling crush, an ally in loneliness, a vulnerable best friend. The movie is written and directed by Sofia Coppola, adapted from the book Elvis and Me by Priscilla Presley and Sandra Harmon, and it stars Kaylee Spaney and Jacob Elordi. And yeah, so Kim, what were your expectations going into Priscilla? And also, did you see Baz Luhrmann's Elvis biopic from last year or the year before?
I did. I actually saw it several times.
Oh, nice.
I really liked it. Really liked it. So before I talk about how I felt about Miss Coppola's film, I'm a huge fan of Sophia's. I've seen all of her stuff, starting with The Virgin Suicides, which I think was her first film a million years ago. But we got to go back really quick, even further than that, to when Kim C was 12 or 13 years old. Actually, I might have even been 11. Okay. So I was always at my grandparents' house, and my grandma and grandpa had stacks and stacks of really boring Reader's Digest books, all the classics. But I would mull through the titles all the time, looking for probably romance novels. I just was searching, but those were hidden in the garage, I found out later. And my grandma had a copy of Priscilla's memoir, Elvis and Me. And so I grabbed it. It was red. She had lost the dust cover, and there were black and white pictures inside. And Priscilla is the most gorgeous. I'm serious, guys. Please Google older pictures of Priscilla. She's stunningly beautiful, and I just loved her outfits and her hair. And I was like, oh, this looks fun. So I started reading it, and I read it pretty much every time I would go to Grandma's house. Okay. So I could honestly say I have read that memoir 20 plus times.
Wow. Okay.
And so when I found out that we were going to get a fresh contemporary perspective of the memoir, I flipped, Matt. I could have just flown and floated off the ground. I was so thrilled because this was something that I had read as a teenager, preteen rather, very, very close to her age in the film, which is 14 when she meets Elvis. And so I was like, this feels wild and very full circle. So couldn't wait to get to the theater. And I really, really loved it. And I can honestly say, I remember the memoir vividly. Like I every single frame of that movie came from the memoir, Matt.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Because that's so rare, especially for like a memoir like that. Like that's pretty, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Extremely rare. So I was cheering at the end. I was just absolutely thrilled. It's amazing how it's changed as I've got older. Like I still love it. But when I was like a preteen, I thought Priscilla was the luckiest girl on God's green earth. Because like as I was reading the book, I had my headphones on my little Discman listening to NSYNC.
Oh, wow.
And I had notebooks with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Devon Sawa. Shout out to my millennials out there who know these guys. You know, I had them scotch tape into my little journal and was reading about the luckiest girl I had ever heard of who was chosen by the biggest star on earth and just made into a larger than life iconic beauty. And I thought she was so lucky. And then as I got older, I was like, I don't know about that. I have a much larger frame to look at things in, and we got some problems, Matt.
Yeah. That's what's kind of interesting to me is like I came at it from a completely different angle. Like I had no foreknowledge about the relationship between Priscilla and Elvis. I know Elvis. Like I know like songs and everything. I want to say I think that this is accurate, but for obsessive viewer historians, back in the day, we used to host yearly a one-night event screening for short horror films from local filmmakers called Sharktober in Irvington. We did that for a few years, had a blast, raised money for the Irvington Historical Society. A lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun. But the first venue that we had was the Irving Theater. We did it there 3 years, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, the stage of the Irving Theater is like, part of it is made from like the like floor of Market Square Arena, which was the venue here in Indianapolis where I believe Elvis Presley played his last show. Yeah, so I've stood on the stage with Elvis.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
that's a big deal.
Yeah. So that's the little obsessive viewer history lesson for OV historians. But yeah. Anyway, I had no foreknowledge of the relationship. I had no idea. Like Sofia Coppola as a filmmaker is someone whose work I have admired, but I admit I have several blind spots, and I wasn't really that big a fan of On the Rocks, I think, from 2020. Was that her last movie, I think?
Good question. I think I've missed a couple in the last few years, because the last one I saw was, I think it was the Dakota Fanning or Elle Fanning, and it was with Stephen Dorff, and they're a father-daughter, and he's a rock star, and I forget what that's called. Sorry, I did not do my homework on her film catalog, other than the ones I really liked, which is Marie Antoinette. Shout out to my favorite. But Stephen Dorff and Elle Fanning, and it's father-daughter. It's really touching and cute. That's the last one. So I think I might
Okay.
be missing a few in her catalog.
Okay, interesting. Yes. So in her most recent feature-length film was On the Rocks in 2020, which is available, I believe, on Apple TV Plus. And I'm trying to find the movie. Was that Somewhere, maybe?
That sounds like it. Yep.
Okay, yeah, it was Somewhere. Yeah, which is one of the blind spots I have, so I haven't seen it. But I'll have to definitely check it out. Yeah.
I really love her stuff, but I think, and I know this is kind of a hot take, but I think others have said it, so it's not just me being sort of gendered about it, but I really believe Sophia is a very feminine filmmaker.
Okay.
I think she captures feminine spaces and women very, very well. There are lots of women and their intimacy and their inner worlds on really strong display in her films.
Okay.
And I don't know. I feel I associate Sofia Coppola with like a very feminine presence. I don't know. I think it's legit.
I totally get that. Yeah, even with like, and I mean, like, granted, On the Rocks is the most recent one that I've seen, and even that was a few years ago, so it's not fresh in my mind. But like, that movie's about, if I'm not mistaken, it's about Rashida Jones and Bill Murray. They're an estranged father and daughter, and it's her kind of reckoning with her father's philandering and his, like, what he did to the family dynamic, like that kind of disrupted everything, I think. But yeah, heavy topics. And I'll have to rewatch that. I need to revisit a lot of her stuff. But yeah.
Marie Antoinette is my favorite. That is like a bop. It is so great and lush. Virgin Suicides has the best movie soundtrack ever. It's from the French band Air. So good. There's a couple. Lost in Translation, I think, is pretty classic.
Yeah.
Really good. But yeah, I was so thrilled she got her hands on this. And I'm so proud of what she did. I was home run.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it. I ended up liking it quite a bit. And it's just in terms of the way that the movie just depicts the central relationship, it is so like cold and isolated. And I don't know if this is the intended read of it, but like Elvis doesn't seem like a good dude in this movie. and like throughout the movie, like I kept and this is not to bring it back to Stephen King, and this is a tangential thing, but like it reminded me so much. I don't know if you saw the movie Spencer from a few years ago with Kristen Stewart. Yeah. Directed by...
That was freaky.
Oh, yeah. It was great. And it was directed by Pablo Larraín, who went on to do Lacey's Story. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, good connection.
Yeah. So this movie reminded me quite a bit of Spencer because, I mean, it's the central character is a woman who is in a very public relationship, in a very public arena, and feelings of isolation, loneliness, and just a desperate eventual need to escape, basically. And in that respect, Priscilla is very similar to Spencer. And I think that there's a lot that Sofia Coppola brings to the table in this that I found were like some really interesting choices. In particular, like it is a period movie, obviously, because it takes place through like the 50s and 60s and upwards of the 70s, I think. Yeah. But like as immaculate as the set decoration, as immaculate as like it is very richly detailed, like the color scheme, the color palette of it is so muted, and it just feels like so isolating and cold. And I'm just like, that's a metaphor for her experience. It's just, I was just like, this is so, because like, I was watching it and I was like thinking that like, wow, it's just every color is so like diluted and everything. Even when there's like a hot pink car that's like taking over the whole frame, and it's like you can barely see the color, and I'm just like, I was very impressed, because like when you do something like that, it's like, I don't know, a lesser hand would make it a boring experience, but it was really engaging. I really liked it. So yeah.
I am so glad, Matt, because I was so scared that you might hate it. I mean, it would have been fine if you did hate it. But I did feel like this film is very much like a young girl's diary and a young girl's kind of experience with what happens when you're chosen by the biggest pop star in the world to be his little princess doll wife. And it doesn't really turn out that great.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a terrible tragedy of a film, but it's a quiet observation. And what I love about the movie so much, and I'm so glad you brought up Baz Luhrmann's film from last year. Baz Luhrmann's film is electrifying. It is so good because it shows Elvis, the artist and the musician and the performer, which he is iconically great. Like nobody had sang like that. Nobody had danced like that. And it all comes from Black culture. So we were finally able to like marry the two together. And yeah, he was just such an influential and also very tragic because he was poorly managed by the colonel. But what Priscilla is it's her perspective the whole time. And I don't think that sits well with a lot of with diehard Elvis fans, which there are a lot. And, but I love this beautiful telling of the memoir because you kind of see this young woman. Oh my, and she's so young. Sadly, she was chosen by Elvis because of her purity and her beauty. And I do think that they had some sort of connection there because she listened to him. And she also wasn't old enough to have a personality yet, like to have an identity yet. So she just doted on him and served him like a little paper doll. And that's exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I'll say really quick about the memoir, which I want you to keep in your mind's eye, Elvis was the biggest mama's boy ever, like on earth. So here's the kind of gross thing. His mom, Gladys, passed away very prematurely. And she always told Elvis that he needed to marry a virgin.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
She was very traditional and very old school, as saying, like, you can mess around with whoever you want, but you better make sure that you marry a virgin. And so he really took that to heart. He wanted someone his mother would approve of and that his mother would like. So Priscilla is 14 when they meet. He is 24. And, you know, some critics of the film are saying that it's grooming. And it's like, yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he was really, I mean, granted, they weren't married until, so they met in 1960, they met in 1959 and they wouldn't marry until 1967? Yeah, 1967. So it was an 8-year courtship. So she would have been definitely older by at least 20 by the time they got married. But so he wanted a virgin. He wanted a pure servant who would answer every phone call, be at his beck and call, never ask questions, look beautiful on his arm. He just wanted a trophy wife, a virgin trophy wife. And he is a god, so why wouldn't he be able to have that?
Right. That's really interesting context. I feel like the movie, it doesn't really say much about his mother, but I think there is like one or two lines about her. But that was kind of my big hang up with the movie, was that it did to me feel like grooming as someone on the outside of it all. But like it also like it did feel like it felt very inappropriate to me. And like I not to go on a tangent, I hinted at this off mic, but I've been promoting the show on TikTok and Patreon and everything. So I did an immediate reaction recording for Priscilla on the way back from the theater. And I posted a clip of that on Patreon. And then Jess, who I'm still friends with, commented and just said like a very sarcastic, cause she like very sarcastic, like Elvis is canceled. And oh boy, that caught some people, to, oh, it was,
I believe it, Matt.
Yeah.
Believe it. They are crazy.
Yeah.
They refuse to believe Priscilla's perspective. It's a real thing. They refuse to accept her side. They think she's lying. They think that Elvis has done no wrong, that he was an angel among all humans.
Oh, yeah. And it's like bad. It turned into a whole thing, and like so here's the thing. Like I have long said, and I will scream this as long as I have a platform, that I think, and I say this as someone who has devoted a significant portion of his time to creating a Stephen King podcast, the concept of fandom and taking like centering a specific person, be it artist, public figure, whomever, centering them, making them the cornerstone of like your entire personality, is incredibly unhealthy. And it leads to some insane internet interactions. So like, for instance, like years ago, like a few years ago, I had made some comment, like I had tweeted something about Michael Jackson and how I had heard something on a podcast, and I had mentioned something like, that's kind of a bad take, because it was like something kind of in defense, and I had just watched Finding Neverland or whatever, and I was like, oh, you know, this person is maybe wrong about this on this podcast. And like the flood of people that are like just regurgitating like all of the like, oh, well, this is this and this is that. Like, you're misinformed. Here's this documentary that is very sketchy on like Amazon Prime. And like, it's just, it's like this weird, online, not bullying necessarily, but like it's this online, like dog pile of things that it's just like if you say one thing, groups of people will come in and descend on it. So I had posted the clip on Patreon and like Jess had said Elvis is canceled, and someone with the username something like Presley Fam or something had said, and this is going to be some interesting language, and I don't know. Okay, so they had said, in the clip, I had said that it is an inappropriate relationship from the way that it's painted in the movie. And so this person's response to Jess saying Elvis is canceled was, Priscilla let Scientology drug her kids, then
oh my God.
Yeah. And then this is where it gets very like, then let her boyfriend molest her 11-year-old daughter, but you people love her. And it's like,
wow.
Jess and I don't care one way or the other about Priscilla, first of all, but and then Jess kind of poked the bear a little bit and responded with a sarcastic, exactly, she slays, queen.
God bless Jess. That's awesome.
I got such a kick out of that. And then the person responded, and put, so you're okay that she let her boyfriend molest her 11-year-old? And then like, because of the TikTok algorithm and everything, and like this person was like putting asterisks in the word. So it's like, so instead of molest, it's M asterisk, lest. And then Jess was just like, sorry, the word you're using isn't showing up. Like, what is it?
I love it.
Yeah, but it was really entertaining. But like, that's the thing where like, and if you go to this person's TikTok, they eventually like video replied to Jess and said like, this is what she said when this is what a Priscilla fan said when I brought this up and everything. This just shows what they're really like. And then she had commented and and Jess had commented and been like, I don't care. Like it was sarcasm. Like it's not whatever. And then like I guess like it devolved into a whole conversation. I haven't read the comments on there, but Jess had told me that she people kept replying and saying like, well, you know, if like trying, because Jess had brought up, well, what about the whole like she was 14 when they met and he was 24, and they were like, well, you know, if you met like an 80-year-old and oh my god, math is hard, I should have gone the other way, an 80-year-old and a 10 years, so 80-year-old and 90-year-old. Wow, math is hard. So like you wouldn't look twice at that. It's like, yeah, their brains are developed at that point. Like it's not
They're
anyway.
a consenting adult.
Yes. So all that's to say, fandom is weird. Don't create an entire personality. Like don't make your personality your fandom of something. And I say that as someone wearing a shirt that says Ka on it.
Yay!
And I have an Overlook Hotel thing
I love it.
behind me.
Well, you'll love this, Matt, since we're in the same business serving the king.
Yes.
I actually got my first dose of that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. So I just did an episode on my impressions of It from 9 years ago and my recent reread of it.
The notoriously uncontroversial It novel.
Right? Free of any controversy. And so I have a segment where I talk about Beverly Marsh, and I really like Beverly, but I kind of get stuck on Beverly because my personality type is, for anybody who's like an Enneagram person, I'm an Enneagram 9, and what 9s do, and not to get too much on this soapbox, but we get stuck listening to both sides.
Okay.
And so I'm consistently looking at both sides all the time. And so I like Beverly a lot, but then I also see this other side where I think she's kind of underdeveloped, and I don't feel she's given as much character meat as some of the boys, and therefore I'm like, she's kind of more symbolic for me. Anyway, so I got, oh my God, Matt, the Beverly worshippers came from my throat.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Like they were convinced that, well, they gave me some data because I said, you know, why does Beverly like textiles? Like, do we know? And yeah, I definitely got some passionate people.
Oh no.
And like, it's hard to read tone in a text, as you know. So I also got some emails where they were like, it's clearly here. I was like, wow, copy that. Thank you for pointing that out. Greatly appreciated.
Wow.
Well, in your rant against Beverly. No, ma'am. It was not
a rant at all. Yes.
I'm allowed to analyze in a way. Yeah. And so I had that happen, Matt. I was shook. So that is something else. Because having just listened to that episode that you did, like, you approach the Beverly situation overall with such care and clear admiration for the character. Like you speak very highly of her, and like it's weird that people will kind of take offense at something. Like that is partially why I have never and I will never say anything good or bad about Taylor Swift, because I don't want to disappear from the world. Yes, I always say, and I deeply mean it, I am not a Swiftie. However, I think she's a fantastic songwriter.
Oh, yeah.
And very, very talented. And then
Yes.
that's all I'll say. And I stay alive. So.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I won't say who this is, but someone that I know is very much not a Taylor Swift fan. So occasionally I will just will troll her and
Let
say,
it out.
yeah, well, I will say like I will just at random intervals say like, so do you think the wedding will be like Reputation themed or like Midnights when she and Travis finally get married? Like, do you think that
That is so clever.
Yeah, and I don't know why anyone ever talks to me, but
I chuckled. I thought that was great.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, there's some passionate people out there.
Yeah, it's
wow. And I mean, don't even think about speaking ill about Beverly ever, Matt.
Right.
Just don't do it ever. Even though I feel I didn't, it was still too close for some Beverly fans out there. So I'm like, ooh, I don't want to touch that hot pan again.
Yeah.
So I feel ya, and the Memphis Mafia.
I love
Elvis,
that. Nice.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Jeez.
The Elvis devotees are very dangerous.
Yeah.
And I will not take them for granted.
Yeah.
I believe in their intense devotion to Elvis. And like that's the thing, I love Elvis. I'm a fan. I am a fan, Matt. Like I listen to him a lot. Like I on the weekends spend way too much money on vintage clothes. I have dresses from the 50s. I go all out. I'm a fan. But this was her perspective, and I just find it very sad that people will not entertain the fact that Elvis was a flawed human being in his intimate life. And I do believe, like Sofia Coppola put it this way, and I thought it was fantastic. Elvis and Priscilla became American royalty. Like they really are kind of like when you think about iconic Americana, it's Elvis and Priscilla. But this is a glimpse into that intimate world where I think there's a lovely balance of the nice Elvis, but somebody who was very misguided and he just was so afraid of letting a woman in any way become a whole person. Yeah,
that it is a very interesting balance that the movie strikes with that. And also I'm like in my head right now, when I introed the episode, when I introed us to this, I said Suspicious Minds. I didn't say Dangerous Minds, did I?
You did say dangerous, but I think you meant suspicious.
I did.
I knew exactly what you meant.
I did. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So if you've already sent an angry email at me, please, I'm aware. So yeah, like in my head, I'm like thinking about that, and I'm like, I said that with full confidence.
I knew exactly what you meant. I loved it. Well, I love that you caught it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do that too.
And I am way too lazy to go fix it or anything, so all of this is staying in. But
it's beautiful.
But yeah. So the other kind of thing I wanted to talk about with the movie in particular was in relation to the Baz Luhrmann movie. I think like I maybe wasn't too crazy about the Baz Luhrmann movie, but mostly because I just automatically have like an intense allergic reaction to music biopics. Like,
okay.
that is a genre of movie where I feel like even in situations where someone is doing something wholly unique with it, like Baz Luhrmann did, like whoever directed Rocket Man, the Elton John one, right. Even when they bring to the table something wholly unique to the genre, I still just feel like it's still a music biopic. It's still the same thing. Like Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, ruined music biopics because that movie was incredible at deconstructing it and satirizing it. But the thing I kind of found myself thinking about after leaving Priscilla was that it's interesting that we have these two movies coming out like back to back, essentially, completely different people involved and everything. But we have Elvis, which is fairly straightforward music biopic, but with all the Baz Luhrmann flash and everything. But the interesting thing about that is that it is from the perspective of the Colonel. And here we have Elvis, who obviously is a larger than life character and a larger than life like presence in the world. And the perspective is from Priscilla. And it's just interesting that we have these two movies that explore this same, entity, this pop culture just juggernaut, but it's from perspectives that aren't like his per se. Obviously, it's much more prevalent in Priscilla because it is Priscilla's movie, but I just found it interesting. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
That's a great point to make, actually. I never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. And I think it's because one thing, when you read a lot about Elvis or when you watch his performances or reading Priscilla's memoir, he was really interesting. Lots of flaws, but he's very spiritual, but like all kinds of stuff, like Hinduism and a lot of Eastern philosophy. And this guy is like a country bumpkin from the South.
Yeah.
And he really, he experimented with drugs, which we do see a little bit in the film. And he was, I really feel like there was a kind of an academic inside of him. He was a voracious reader. He was constantly seeking and questioning and wanting to learn. But his performing career, or rather his money-making career, where the Colonel just slapped him into these idiotic films again and again and again, he didn't have the time or energy to really know who he was, which was much more of a thinker and a seeker outside of being a musician.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of depth there. There's some really cool documentaries that Bruce Springsteen's a part of that I think called like Elvis the Seeker. I think it's on Max. It's really, really good. I recommend. He had an addictive personality. Like anything that was fun, he would just buy 10 of it. If he liked a horse, all of a sudden there's a ranch at Graceland. If he liked little race cars, the next day there's 40 race cars.
Wow.
He was extremely generous and loving. Like if someone was having a bad day, the next day he bought them a car.
Oh, wow.
He was just a big, big, big personality that wanted to make people happy, wanted to have a good time. And one thing that I love about the film is, as you know, all the scenes at Graceland, there's like 40 people at that house at all times. Like he was never by himself. He was probably a very self-critical individual all the time. And so he always needed a hype group. He always needed hype men, people to just surround him. And of course they were sycophantic. And of course they're like absolutely abusing and his resources, of course. But that was the life. I just am blown away by the life that Priscilla had to just allow to be her normal life, which was 40 people in her house at all times, becoming a vampire, Matt. Like she never saw daylight until after she was forced to graduate high school, which she cheated in order to graduate. Elvis slept all day because he partied all night, and he would wake up at 4, 5 o'clock at night. He would wake up and have steak and eggs and a pound of bacon and peanut butter and banana and bacon sandwiches.
I forgot about that. Jesus. Yeah.
Every single day. And then he's taking uppers. He's taking downers. He's taking quaaludes. He's just, wow. And meanwhile, he's making movies. He's trying to sing. He is just like level 11 every single day. Yeah. And he's cheating on her, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
But to kind of wrap that all up. I really went wild there.
That's great. It's fantastic.
Elvis is fascinating. He is so fascinating. And some people want to put him in their own box and only see Elvis the performer. They only want to see the guy who gave through his music and the guy who loved his family, and that's what they want to see.
Yeah.
Whereas other perspectives show, like Priscilla's point of view, where for example, after she gave birth to Lisa Marie, he didn't want to have sex with her anymore. Matt, it was sad. It was really sad. And she got pregnant with Lisa Marie the very first time they had sex.
Oh God.
The very first time. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh my God.
They didn't even really get to have like a sexual life together because he just denied, and then she gets pregnant, and then he sees her as the mother rather than his wife.
Yeah.
And it's so tragic, but I just wish that diehard Elvis fans would realize you can still love him and love his music, but you can allow alternative perspectives into your worldview.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I'm getting at in terms of like fandom and everything. Cause like people, like there's no problem. Like, I don't know. No one can be like Stephen King, which is to say that no one can have absolutely flawless everything. Like Stephen King is a god amongst men. But
plus one.
Yeah. But no, obviously I'm being facetious, but, there is, and I think maybe it's just, there's a disconnect, not to get back into the whole like fandom thing or whatever, but there is a disconnect from like people who are like there's nothing wrong with being a fan of something and being someone who derives pleasure from something like artistic or any type of art or artist or anything. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think the disconnect comes from people like us who we, in our free time, we are actively looking at art in a critical way or in an analytical way. And because of that, we are able to separate compartmentalize thing, not compartmentalize, but basically just, see the good and bad. And while for other people, it's inherently okay for people to want to see just the good because that's what they derive their pleasure from, as long as they're not doing that for like monsters. But I don't know, taking a critical look at people and things is what I've based my entire personality around rather than a single person or artist. So I don't know, but to get back to the movie and everything, I do think that there is a very respectful way that the movie approaches both sides of it all. Like there is complexity to it. So like, I mean, we see like him giving her pills and her being asleep for 2 days and everything. And when she's 14 and like her moving to Graceland when she's a kid, separating her from her family and everything. That like throughout the movie, I'm like, yeah, he's kind of grooming her. He's like, this is predatory behavior. This is textbook. But then you also see like he has like, not necessarily, I wouldn't like, I guess tender moments, like moments where he's not depicted as a monster by any stretch. Like the scene where they see a movie and he's talking about how he wants to be like an actor like Marlon Brando and James Dean, and he wants to explore that side of himself. And then you see him reading the scripts and saying like, yeah, the Colonel is throwing me trash and like I can't do anything with it or whatever. It's just, there is complexity here that I think is really interesting in terms of presenting a multifaceted character in Elvis who he is a larger than life person just in this world and in the world of the movie, but also not compromising Priscilla's perspective on things and her experience and making it mostly about her and then having the context of who Elvis is as a person. I don't know. I just think there's just a really interesting balance struck in the movie between the two. So.
Oh, beautifully said.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you noticed that, because I thought the same thing. I was like, this is not a Elvis demonization session.
Yeah.
This is showing, hey, there's this, but then there's also this warmth and this tenderness and this good guy under there. You can see why someone would definitely fall in love with him.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you absolutely hit it on the head with, sometimes it's a challenge to embrace the good and the bad, because when I was getting ready to see the film, I've got like a phone tree with a bunch of gals in my life. And I'm like, all right, who's coming with me to see Priscilla? And my friend Liz, who's a real big Elvis fan. Like we're all very similar. She's like, I can't. And I was like, why? Why not? I mean, just get a babysitter for the kid. Let's go. And she's like, no, I can't. I want Elvis in my mind a certain way. And I was like, that explained it. And I couldn't say anything. And I tried to like wiggle in there, and I was like, you know, I think it's going to kind of show Priscilla's isolation when he was away filming. Like, I don't think it'll be that bad. But she's like, no, I just want Elvis the way that I want him. And I just had to like let it go and respect that. I often feel, Matt, like, I think, not to say that you and I are enlightened creatures, which we are, but I think it is somewhat of a challenge to watch something. Like, if we were to see a film that bashed Stephen King, I know that we would get our feathers up about it.
Yeah.
But I think that we would also be very, very objective.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's even kind of not happened, but like when Sleeping Beauties came out and he and Owen King were on like Good Morning America or something, and he said something like, yeah, the book's about like what happens if all women fall asleep and can't wake up or whatever, like what happens to the laundry and stuff. And like people were like, oh my God, he's misogynistic. It's like, no, he's like 73. Like it's not like it's a bonehead thing to say, and like, but I'm still gonna read everything he writes. Like it's not.
Oh my God, he's not a misogynist.
No,
like, it was a joke, people.
But
I tell you, yeah, I just think that sometimes it's the more challenging thing to do to embrace both sides. And I saw that with my friend Liz. She refused to go with me, Matt, because she just put her foot down. She's like, I am not seeing an Elvis film that remotely shows him in a bad light. And I'm like, wow. And I think that's a thing. Sadly, that is a thing.
Yeah.
People want to hold on to that fantasy tight.
Yeah. And again, I can't fault them for that, honestly. Because at the end of the day, art and, you know, the things that people watch and enjoy are comfort. Like, they're comfort media, they're comfort things. And like I said, as long as, I don't know, it's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah. Yeah. But at least Stephen King is perfect and infallible.
He is. He can really do no wrong. Even as I'm talking about like an 11-year-old gang thing, I'm like, you know, it's fine.
Right? It's fine. It's totally fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I respect the creative choices. And then, meanwhile, on any other planet, I would absolutely punch myself in my own face. Yes. But I can't. Yeah. When it comes to King. So I get it.
Yeah. So, do you want to go into... Is there anything to spoil in this movie?
Great question. I would say... maybe the end. I like how it ends. I thought that was beautiful. So yeah, I think maybe the ending might be spoilery. Okay, yeah, let's go into spoilers. Although, real quick, in non-spoiler, since you are fascinated by Elvis and know a lot more than I do,
something like when talking about his aspirations for performing like on screen, and I don't know if you've seen like his movies or anything or his acting chops, but do you think that he would have had a shot at being like a respected, like good actor, like a Brando or James Dean? Do you think he had that in him, or was that like a pipe dream for him?
This is an amazing question, Matt. So anybody out there who has never ever seen an Elvis film, all of the critics agree that Elvis's best film was King Creole. Like it's a black and white one. That's where I think Jailhouse Rock. No, I take that back. Never mind. That Jailhouse Rock was when Jailhouse Rock was the song. But anyway, I'm getting it. But no, King Creole was a drama, and Elvis worked really hard, and everything after that became like a connect the dots, boy girl, beach blanket bingo kind of silly rom-com. My favorite junk food Elvis movie is called Frankie and Johnny. It's awesomely bad, but that's my favorite. That's Kim C's favorite. But King Creole, he really does show some range. Okay. And it's pretty impressive. And that was his favorite movie that he ever did, King Creole. And so I think that, yes, actually. Okay. I do. However, when I say that, although I think he could have gone the distance, I really feel that Elvis's heart was music. I really do feel like he wouldn't have had the devotion or the intensity to pursue it as ardently as he would have done music, because music, like, he was trying new genres, he was experimenting with new sounds, songwriters, like, he came alive with music. And I feel personally, just my own opinion, that his soul was moved more by music. So I do feel he probably could have had maybe one or two strong dramatic roles that would have really surprised critics. They would have been like, wow, wow, what a talent. But I don't feel he could have ever been a Brando, because Brando, I think it was born with it, and he owned it every single moment of every single day. Brando just is. Yeah. Like he's just that. He is the acting. He is the role. And I don't know if Elvis had that. Okay. Interesting. I just had a suspicious mind about that. So good. Well, we can go on together, Matt, with suspicious mind. Yes. Well done. Okay, well, shall we go on to spoilers for Priscilla? Let's do it. All right. So we're going to spoil Priscilla after this clip from the trailer. Check the show notes for timestamps, all that stuff. Here's a clip from the trailer for Priscilla. We will be spoiling it when we come back from that.
What are the kids listening to these days?
Bobby Darin, Fabian, and you.
Just what is the intent here, Mr. Presley? You got women throwing themselves at you. Why my daughter?
Well, sir, I happen to be very fond of your daughter. She's much more mature than her age.
All right, so spoilers on for Priscilla. And Kim, we didn't talk really about the performances at all.
We didn't. We should.
I know.
They were awesome.
They were amazing. Kaylee Spaney, I'm probably mispronouncing that. She was phenomenal. Yes. I have only seen her in one thing, and that was the Alex Garland FX sci-fi miniseries with with Ron Swanson. I can't remember his name. I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, me too. Yeah, Nick Offerman.
There you go.
Called Devs, and she played kind of an androgynous character, and she was phenomenal in that. But this is such a nuanced performance. It is such a she carries it and does an incredible job with it. So what did you think of the performances?
Oh, I loved them. I felt casting was at first, like with Jacob Elordi, I was like, I don't know about this. He is very tall. He's 6'5", and Elvis was only 6 foot. And so I've read a couple complaints that are like, they're way too tall. He's way too tall. And they look awkward together. And I'm just like, shut up, everybody. Just use your imagination. But I saw Jacob Elordi in Euphoria, which
I still need to see that. Yeah,
Tiny got me hooked on that.
Yep.
Tiny was like, you got to watch it. It's effed up, it's crazy, you'll love it, and I did. So he's in that, and his character is knucking futz, Matt. Like he is nutballs.
Nice.
So I was thinking of that Euphoria character when I was like, this is doomed. This is not going to work. But then, oh my God, Matt, his voice, holy fudge. I was freaking out as to how perfect his voice was. It was so convincing. The Southern drawl, the really sort of sexy slur. I was like, this is perfection. And then, like you said, Kaylee's performance is very nuanced because she has to be Priscilla at several ages.
Yes.
And it's fascinating because she's very young at 14, but quiet and unsure. And then she's got to kind of blossom a little bit, albeit slowly, very slow, calculated blossoming. Yeah. You know, she's just got this tiny little breathy mouse voice, but she's got this ginormous hair and this black eyeliner, and she's just this trophy. And oh my God, I think the performances are incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And there is so much responsibility laid at her feet in particular. Like you said, so many different ages she has to do. Like she, and for the most part, like throughout most of the movie, she's pretty isolated in like a way. Like there are scenes with her and Elvis, but like for the most part, she is kind of alone throughout most of the movie. And something I found really interesting was that, the way that Elvis is absent throughout most of the marriage and everything, and the way that that's painted is really interesting. And it kind of hits the kind of like it is hammered home by the way that she like just leaves him. And it's something that has clearly been bubbling up and everything, but it's like, it is not like a split second thing, but it's a cut and dry thing. And then she leaves, and like she is like very sad when interacting with the people that she knows in Graceland, like the people that she has actually had like a healthy relationship with. I thought that was just a really nice, like kind of subtle, kind of overt, but like just a very nice, like just subtextual thing that I really liked about it.
Oh, beautiful. At the end of the film, when the credits were rolling, I was kind of thinking about it, and I thought Priscilla is the definition of love is not enough.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just such a powerful final scene where she's driving out of Graceland. She's driving the car. And it's such a metaphor for her taking over her own life, because that's exactly what she does. And Elvis is like, you're leaving me for another man, because he's just very, very black and white about it. Like, and she's like, no, actually, like, I'm leaving you for myself. And it's like the best thing, but also the hardest thing ever, because there were several articles kind of inquiring into Priscilla's life after Elvis, and she did have, I think, a child with somebody else, but she never married again.
Oh wow.
And, she never married again. And Elvis and her were kind of close, and they were good friends up until he passed away. And then she, of course, inherited or Lisa Marie inherited the Elvis estate, but she got a huge cut. She'll never, her children's children will never have to work a day in their lives. But she said that Elvis was like the only man she could have ever married. Like there was nobody else who could ever be as bright, like shine as brilliantly as he did. And I get it. Like you can't come back down from Mount Olympus to the farm and say, oh yeah, I'll just marry Joe Schmo. No thanks. I've been with a god. I really have been with a god among men. But she realized that she will love Elvis. Like, everybody loves Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves Elvis, and she loves him. But she's like, I am not. Who am I? I am nothing and no one, because I've given everything to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have everything, and it's not enough. It's not enough. Loving you is not enough. I actually need my own life. And I love that Sophia shows her kind of finding that at the end in the early 70s. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's really, it kind of has this empowering feel to it for her. And it's something that the kind of big kind of picture thing is that loss of innocence for Priscilla, and kind of loss of identity, really, because she became like Elvis's girlfriend and then wife and everything at a very young age, formidable years that I still am like, not good, but also like the I guess not trade-off, but like the result of that is that she wasn't able to grow as an individual into her own personality, her own person. And it took, I presume it took leaving Elvis to find herself and everything. And that's really well demonstrated in the kind of I wish I had loaded up the clip, but the Office, like fashion show at lunch, the kind of the dressing up scene where like where he's like, you should do this and that and everything. It's like she has no individuality, she has no, like, it is all in service of whatever Elvis says. And that is such an interesting I guess depiction of that type of one-sided relationship, in that type of relationship where one person holds so much power in the dynamic that even if they are like not, even if they're not conscious of the control that they're exhibiting over the person, they're definitely guilty of it. And it's something that I think is really well demonstrated and well realized in the movie.
Yeah. Sadly, as lovely as their, well, it's a complex lovely, their bond and their love and their connection, because it is romantic in certain ways. It's not sustainable. And I think you put it perfectly, like, his control and his personality is suffocating.
Yeah.
And a person can only take so much before they'll choose their own survival over dying from another person. Yeah.
And that also just brings to mind like bigger questions of like, is someone of the stature of Elvis Presley, is someone of that just magnitude capable of having like a healthy relationship and a healthy life with someone where they can be an equal partner in a relationship and everything? Yeah, I don't know. So
I love that you said that, because I have been talking about Elvis with the women in my life, Matt, for as long as I can remember. So this is kind of amazing. But I, to your statement, would say no.
Okay.
I would say that no. Elvis he was just given everything. He was kind of just a spoiled individual who was given fame and fortune and women and whatever he wanted. And I don't feel that, I think the idea of being like a husband and a father was entertaining to him, almost like any film role would be. But I don't feel, he's a rock and roller. He's a rock and roller, and they are very hard to pin down. It's not impossible. I mean, we've got a lot of rock and rollers who settle down. Alice Cooper's a really beautiful candidate, and he's He's a very lovely man who's been married to the same lady for decades upon decades. You know, Ozzy and Sharon, you know, you've got a lot of outliers, but Elvis had to really want that, and he didn't. Because there's just too many secrets, too many. He could have whatever he wanted, and I feel that he kept Priscilla in Graceland to be his little doll that he could return home to, and that pleased him because that made him feel like he was making his mother happy. The spirit of his mother would look down on him in favor and pride because Elvis was doing the right thing by having a virginal wife and a lovely home and a little daughter. But meanwhile, on the road, he is banging everything, Matt. He is screwing everyone and everything, right? And so, to answer your question, I would say no. I think that Elvis couldn't be a traditional husband and father.
Yeah, that's a shame for.
And I it's not a bad thing when you know that about yourself,
right?
It's just bad that Priscilla and Lisa Marie were collateral damage.
Yeah. And I mean, coming as someone who is in his own right a rock star podcaster, like I know that like my podcast heart cannot be tamed. So like I get true. That. I can understand.
It's true. Mr. 3 shows and 5 million Patreon segments.
Right.
You are the Elvis of podcasting.
Thank you. Thank you. That is the clip I'm going to isolate and like I'm going to get the sound wave and make it a plaque and everything. So.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I wholly support that.
Yeah. So, what else about the movie? Anything else in spoilers?
Let's see. So she drives off. She leaves Graceland, and then the film fades to black. And I think it's a really beautiful ending. It's kind of abrupt. I definitely wanted more. It's a perfect note to look at. And sadly, he would only be alive for 4 more years after that scene, which is kind of bittersweet. I want every single costume in that movie. I want to ransack the costume trailer. I love everything. Apparently, they also recreated Graceland. Like they built a full mock-up of Graceland.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I don't know if they were able to film because I need to get there, Matt. We need to go to Graceland now. Like I got to make it there at some point in my life. It's like Mecca. We all got to go. But I don't think they were able to film in the real Graceland, so they just built a full mock-up, which is amazing. I love it so much. I would say, other than spoilers, I think that's about it. But I just encourage people to see this. Yeah. I know it's hard if you're an Elvis fan. I know you won't like it, but challenge yourself and remind yourself like you're looking at it from one young lady's memory.
Yeah. Yep. And if you don't like it, feel free to comment on my TikToks and stuff.
Yes, you need to find Obsessive Viewer on TikTok and blow him up with how much you disagree. And we're going to pretend like we're not benefiting.
Right, exactly. It is boosting my engagement, so I'm good. Oh, wow.
Overall, I'm just so happy you liked it, man.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I will say I ended up rating it 3 stars out of 5. Honestly, talking it out and everything, that could bump up to 3.5, honestly. Just because there is a lot to this movie. It's kind of a type of movie that would kind of fly under the radar too. I am so glad that you reached out and you wanted to review this with me and everything, specifically because like I said, kind of in my rambling intro, my self-promotion intro, like this is award season for me. Like I'm getting screeners and everything, and check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But this is the type of movie that I would get a screener for, and then unless it had like a groundswell of support in the critics group I'm in, it probably wouldn't have been prioritized to watch. So I'm glad that I got a chance to watch this, and I got a lot out of the experience. So thank you.
Yay! Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so glad, Matt. I am a huge Elvis fan and I'm
Mhm.
a huge Priscilla fan.
Mhm.
So I love them both. And I think that people who love Elvis, you will get something out of this
Mhm.
film. And if not, you can go to Baz Luhrmann or you can go to other
Yeah.
documentaries and you could put Elvis in the box you want him to stay in. That's
Mhm.
fine. But I think that Priscilla, for a moment in time, she was every teenage girl's fantasy in
Mm.
terms of what's possible. Because remember, everybody, a woman,
Yeah.
she wants to be chosen. That's what women want. That's what it is. So this gal was chosen by the hottest, most powerful star on earth. And like, who could say no to that?
Right.
Who wouldn't completely dissolve into white wallpaper to do whatever you could to please this man
Mhm.
because he was a god? So I love them as American royalty, and I think that Sofia Coppola this was a brilliant move for her, Matt. Do you
Mm.
agree?
I think that it is again that complexity that she brings to the table with it. It was something that I wasn't expecting. I found it was very well done. Yeah.
I'm so happy. Thank you for
Yeah.
letting me blab your face off about
Of course.
my
Yeah.
about my my preteen obsession.
Yep. That'll do it. That's our review of Priscilla. Usually I end with the Potpourri segment. I don't know if you have anything you want to throw out for Potpourri, just a quick blurb of something you've watched lately or looking forward to the end of the year, anything?
So this is an old show and it's just popped up on Netflix, but have you ever seen this show Face Off, Matt? It was on
Face
Sci-Fi years and years ago. It's a creative makeup show.
Oh, no. Interesting.
Oh my God, Matt, it's amazing. It's prosthetics. So it's like prosthetics and movie monster makeup.
Interesting.
And if you are wanting a creative show where you see these people bust their ass, work so hard to make a creature out of nothingness, out of a clay mold, and then a latex mold, and then airbrushing and paint. It is, these people are, it's off the air now, but it's a couple seasons are on Netflix, and I am, the second we're done, Matt, I'm going to watch Face Off.
Nice.
It's inspiring. It's an inspiring show to watch, to see really brilliant artists. And if anybody hasn't seen it,
Nice.
Please watch it because it's just the best show ever.
Nice. I will definitely keep that in mind. So is it like makeup for like creature effects and stuff you said?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot to preface that it is a reality show. It probably started in like mid 2000s, maybe late aughts. I don't know.
Okay.
But it was on for 13-ish seasons, and the judges are incredible. You have Glenn Hetrick, who does everything. V. Neal, who does the penguin makeup for Batman Returns. Like, she's got a ton of Oscars. There's Neville Page, who does all of the creature concept work for Alien, the Alien franchise film. So it's just brilliant creativity and people at the height of their craft, and these really, really awesome artists who, oh my God, Matt, they bust their ass. That's all I could say. I've never seen people on a reality show other than like maybe Project One Runway work so hard.
Nice.
Like, there's so much work. And yeah, like, for example, the theme of the week will be like sea creatures, or the other theme of the week will be aliens or vampires. And so you have to make your version of that creature you got to sculpt it out of clay. You got to make a mold. You got to latex the mold. You got to apply the mold with glue to a living person. And then you got to paint the hell out of it and then have them present on stage. And you have like 2 days to do it.
God, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. I don't understand how people can do that. I don't know how that skill set is a thing. Like same with like drawing and everything. I can't wrap my head around it. So I'll definitely check that out.
I always recommend to my students, like anytime they're feeling creative burnout or whatever, I'm like, watch a reality show where people are being creative, because it helps. It really kind of helps you rest a little bit and yet be inspired.
Absolutely agree. For Potpourri for me, I think I can talk about this. I saw Maestro, which is the new the new Bradley Cooper movie. I saw a screening of that last night. It is a biopic about Leonard Bernstein. Okay. So here's the thing. Speaking of prosthetics, no.
I heard about the nose controversy.
It's not bad. It's really not bad. Like the overall makeup effect is really peculiar in some scenes. Like it's kind of weird. I don't know if that's a fault of the makeup design in the prosthetics or if it's just me not being that engaged with the movie. But I enjoyed A Star Is Born, which was Bradley Cooper's directorial debut. Here, I think other critics will like it and everything, but like I felt just a complete lack of focus in it. It's weird. Like if you watch the trailer, part of it is in black and white, part of it is in color. And the first like 45 minutes are all black and white, and it's kind of presenting his relationship with his music and conducting and everything, and his relationship with Felicia, I can't remember her last name, played by Carey Mulligan. That whole sequence is incredible. There's some really interesting like flourishes of the camera that Bradley Cooper uses, that like there's like long sequences that are they're really visually interesting and cool. And then about 45 minutes in, it drops that entirely. It becomes like a more traditional like biopic that spans decades. And it's like, it just, I was so like uninterested from that point on. And it felt like a misfire kind of across the board. So I didn't like it. Your mileage may vary. I'll have a Patreon thing probably next week because it's opening in limited release next week and will be on Netflix in late December. But yeah, I didn't care for it. So yeah.
Copy that. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna have your review in mind when I watch it.
Nice. I'm very curious to hear what you think, and I'm even more curious to see what the hardcore Leonard Bernstein fans come at my TikTok comments with. Yeah. But
one of them might be me.
Perfectly fair. But that'll do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. Kim, thank you so much for joining me. And once again, if you could tell people where they can find you online, where they can find the Year of Underrated Stephen King, and what you've got coming down the pike on the show.
Oh, thank you, buddy. This was amazing. I always love chatting with you. And we've been able to do it a lot this year. We did good.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome. It was awesome. The year has been awesome.
It's just, I think we get on like a house on fire.
Oh, absolutely.
Matt's my Stephen King bestie. Everyone knows this.
Of course.
Yeah. So we've got just a few more episodes because Kim C's a little knackered. So we have Carrie coming up, and it's
I'm gonna so excited.
Me too, because I'm feeling fiery. I am feeling spicy. This book is amazing, and I see why it's iconic. I get it. I'm really, really impressed by this little story. So my next episode will be Carrie, and then after that in December we have my end of the year Best of Underrated King 2023. It's such a fun episode where we give away awards to all the stories, the King stuff we read this year. We have best villain, best hero, best fight scene. So it's sort of like my own little Stephen King Academy.
Love it.
It's so much fun. So those are the next few episodes. For those who heard me talk about Salem's Lot, I'm so sorry. It is postponed until next year. I'm sorry. It it was not coming together. I did not want to ruin Salem's Lot, so that will be in 2024. I promise. But anywhere you pod, Spotify is a good place. Apple Podcasts, we are on X, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. I probably check Instagram the most. And not on TikTok. I need to get like Matt eventually. I need to get on there, but he's the TikTok star. So make sure that you're following Obsessive Viewer on TikTok.
Thank you.
Because I do like the videos. So, and I might start commenting. So,
thank you.
So I'm definitely gonna make some time to put more comments on the videos. But that is where you can find me. And I am consistently and regularly answering emails at underratedsk@gmail. If you just want to write and say hi, which a lot of people have been so sweet, and it definitely puts some logs on the fire when I hear from listeners. So if you haven't said hello at underratedsk@gmail, please do. And don't hate me if I upset you about Beverly Marsh. Yes. I'm really sorry, and I love her. Okay, don't come for me. I'm sensitive.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again, Kim, for joining me. It's been a blast, as it always is, and I'm looking forward to talking to you more in 2024 and beyond and everything. So,
yay! Same.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that will do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. You can find us on obsessiveviewer.com and all the social medias, Obsessive Viewer, on Letterboxd at Obsessive Viewer as well. And now that I'm kind of doing this weekly experiment thing, I can say that next week's episode is going to be, I'm going to be reviewing Thanksgiving and the movie that is on Apple TV Plus that I know not much about, but it has Jessie Buckley. It's called Fingernails. So that's going to be the episode next week. Look forward to that. And of course, check out Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where I post an obscene amount of content, all stars and stripes. So check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, and follow the TikTok, at OV Podcasts and everything. I'm going to start playing us out. Kim, thank you once again, for joining me for this review of Priscilla. And, of course, everyone listening, let us know what you thought. And yeah, give The Year of Underrated Stephen King a listen, because it is a fantastic podcast, and we adore it here at Obsessive Viewer. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I love it. Nice.
I had to.
Nice.
I was like, we gotta do it. We just gotta try.
Well done. Well done. And now, enjoy this short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. For the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, such as early access to episodes, TV, book, and movie reviews and reaction recordings, commentary tracks, and Patreon potpourri episodes, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. With like this whole attitude that like the stories just come to him and he's a vessel for them. That is such a uniquely Stephen King thing. And now I'm sure that he does get hung up on a lot of different things in the process of writing and everything. And I know that it's not just like he's not just pouring out these books and then it's published and everything. But it's something that sets him apart from other storytellers, and what I think makes him such a gifted and masterful storyteller, because I feel like he does things in his writing that other writers would either have to work around or have to make justifications for, like things like having entire sections of a book devoted to just like the town that it's set in, and having like an entire chapter in Christine be about a kid's experience playing football for his high school football team. Like little like detracting things like that in basically anyone who isn't Stephen King, like they would have to justify that. And I think Stephen King gets away with it because the kind of central force of his entire like ethos or his philosophy of storytelling is that he is painting this vivid picture of these characters and these settings, and he is just exploring the story as he's writing it. And that's a skill set that I think is absolutely what makes him worthy of being like the greatest living storyteller that we have, or whatever big platitudes you want to apply to Stephen King. Obviously, I'm biased being a massive fan of the guy, but
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.